Welcome to Bits and Bytes, brought to you by the Greater Wilmington Convention and Visitors Bureau. This is Jessica Bittmann. Today we are in historic Newcastle, only minutes south of Wilmington, Delaware. We're going to learn about when William Penn first came to the New World. We're going to see some homes. We're going to walk around on the cobblestone-lined streets and learn a little bit about history and how people still live here in this town today. Let's go. I am at the Visitor Center in historic Newcastle, and I'm hanging out with Mike Connolly, who is the Executive Director of the Newcastle Historical Society. Hey, Mike.
Hi, Jessica.
How you doing?
Great, how are you?
Great. So tell me about the Visitor Center.
Sure. This is the main home for the Newcastle Historical Society. We're the town's, I like to say, we're the town's attic and the town's memory. So we try to tell people the story of our town. And if you're coming to Newcastle, or even if you live here, this is the perfect place to start your exploration of our town and the history.
Excellent. So in the Visitor Center, is it just takeaway items that people can find? Are there activities for families to do when they're here?
Yeah, there's a lot of things we can help you with at the Visitor Center. We can kind of get you oriented, which is the main thing. So you can come here, you can find out what there is to do in Newcastle, learn about our museums, learn about the restaurants and the shops here in town. If you want to do a tour, currently with the pandemic, we have a free audio tour that's available from our website, newcastlehistory.org. You can also pick up a couple of paper-based just walking tours if you want a really casual thing to do on your own. We even have a tour of the cemetery next door at Emmanuel Church, so if you want to kind of explore some graves and learn your history that way, you can do that too.
Do you offer ghost tours in certain times of year?
We do indeed, thanks.
Oh, I love a ghost tour.
Yes, they're fun.
So tell me about this building.
Yes, we're in the Arsenal, and the Arsenal was built in 1809, just as kind of relations between the United States and Britain was not going so well. And so it was originally built as a federal arsenal to house munitions, gunpowder, and that kind of thing. It operated like that for a little while. It eventually fell out of use. By the 1850s, it had become a public school, and we are standing in one of the 4 original classrooms of the public school. And it went through a couple of other incarnations. The Belanca Aircraft Corporation was here for a little while. It continued to operate as school. It was a lot of people know it as the Arsenal on the Green restaurant. And then about 5 or 6 years ago, we took it over. It's currently owned by the state of Delaware, and we're their tenant. So this is our administrative office, visitor center, and event space.
Excellent. Well, it's a really, really cool building, and I can't wait to find out more about it and about Newcastle.
Great. Love to show you.
Jessica Bittmann. I am at the Newcastle Courthouse Museum with Kim Fritsch, and I am really excited to learn about this awesome building. Can you tell us a little bit about the history of the building?
Absolutely. This is a 1732 English courtroom, and we are the 4th oldest courthouse in the nation, and we are here part of the National Park System here in Delaware.
Excellent. And can people come and visit and take tours?
Absolutely. We do free tours, and we do 4 scheduled tours anywhere from Wednesday through Sundays, depending on the hours. And you can call ahead, and we'll be able to get you scheduled.
Excellent. Do you offer group tours for larger groups that might want to come?
We try to keep them per household. A 6-member household in there is the length that we do per tour.
Okay. Excellent. And what's your favorite exhibit here at the courthouse?
I'm torn. I love the courtroom, but I especially love going over the assembly room upstairs where the members signed in our new Constitution.
Oh, I can't wait to see that. And in this courthouse building, what are some features that would have been important back in that day, that are some things you might want to us?
Well, how they still had the English style of the court being set up with the 3 judges' chairs at the front there, and where you weren't sitting with your lawyers, the lawyers are actually sitting at their own table, while the defendants would be sitting here in what they call the dock.
Ooh, interesting. So they were kind of on their own to defend themselves while the lawyers sat at the table. I like that. Hi, today we are in historic Newcastle at the Reed House and Gardens, and I'm here with Brenton from the Delaware Historical Society, and he's going to tell us about this amazing house, this great room, and the significance of this home to the area.
Right, well, we're so glad that you're here. It's a beautiful house in a beautiful town. And this house is kind of significant in 2 different levels, and one of them is that it's having been built between about 1797 and 1804, it has become one of the most significant surviving examples of the Philadelphia Federal style in architecture. So, as you walk around the rooms, you'll see, really detailed punch and gouge ornamentation in the wood carving. You'll see what we call composition ornament adorning the mantels. And it has huge windows, high ceilings, the light floods in, and it's just a fantastic house architecturally. But what's really interesting is that as successive generations took over stewardship of this place, it has always been thought of as a prized historic house. So when Philip and Lydia Laird bought it in 1920, it started a whole other phase during what we know as the colonial revival movement. And their loving restoration here, as well as their creativity in some of the spaces, really it became a poster child for what you could do with historic material at that time. And it turned up in all sorts of lifestyle, shelter magazines, town and country. You can look at the room that we're in right now, which was the Laird's dining room, and you can see it set pretty much the same way in a town and country issue from 1930. So
really?
you can make that connection. The wallpaper is hand painted. It was done in the 1920s, and
It's spectacular. I just love it.
It's right. I mean, the colors, the vibrancy, and these are all scenes from local Newcastle history, including scenes like this one that challenge us a little bit now in the way that we would think about history. This is supposed to be William Penn landing in America for the first time here in Newcastle. But as you can see, he's portrayed being greeted by local Lenape residents of this area who are not very carefully depicted. Their dress is not traditional to the Lenape traditions. And there are other anachronisms too, but it was a time when people wanted to portray the sort of colonization of America as a heroic thing, and sometimes they weren't thinking about all of the other people who were involved in that equation. But it's part of the history here, and we talk about all the parts of the history here.
Brenton, can you tell us why is this called the Reed House?
Reed, and it's R-E-A-D.
R-E-A-D.
That's right.
Okay.
And it's the Reed House because it was built for the family of George Reed II. George Reed II's father, George I, is pretty famous as one of the signers of the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution. He was one of the early governors of Delaware, a Senate. The list goes on and on. He was an important statesman. And it's an interesting story because the son built this house when he was in his mid-30s, expecting to have, I think, a great career as a statesman. And he did all right. He was the first U.S. attorney for the District of Delaware, but he didn't quite have the political career it seems like he wanted. But we're so glad that he built an extravagant mansion here because it left us with something spectacular.
We are back in historic Newcastle with Mike Connolly from the Newcastle Historical Society, and he's going to tell us about the statue behind me and William Penn's relationship to Delaware.
Great, thank you. We're here in front of William Penn, and a lot of people associate William Penn with the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania for obvious reasons, but it was actually here in Newcastle where William Penn first set foot on North American soil, right down the street from where we're standing in October of 1682. 1876 that changed and Delaware became its own state. What people found that were living down here in the lower 3 counties was that they weren't really getting the type of representation up in Pennsylvania Assembly that they thought they should. So they petitioned Mr. Penn here to give them their own assembly, which met here in Newcastle. And so that's how Newcastle became known as Delaware's colonial capital.
Wonderful. And do you have like a giant party to celebrate?
We do have William Penn Day actually in October, but an even bigger party that we have is the second Saturday in June when we celebrate Separation Day, and that's when we celebrate the fact that we're no longer part of Pennsylvania.
Awesome. That's it for today with Bits and Bites. I had so much fun in historic Newcastle, and I hope you did too. Maybe we learned a little something new. So I'm going to go grab a bite to eat, get a beer, and just enjoy the rest of my afternoon. Catch you next time.